I mean, who would have thought that when you stop paying people a bunch of unemployment and you tell them they got to pay their rent and their school loans got to get paid, that retail sales would drop? I mean,
Hmm.
I'm sitting over here. What, remember Fight Club? If you, I don't know if you ever seen that, it's like I'm Jack's utter lack of surprise. And there's like another funny one in Fight Club. He's like, I'm Jack's raging bile duct. I'm Jack's utter lack of surprise. I just,
Mm.
who
Yeah.
the hell didn't see that the economy was getting propped up by the fact that we are pouring a huge amount of money in unemployment? People are not, some people are not paying their rent. And then a lot of people are not paying their school loans, even though they're working. Kane, where do you think all the extra money was? You think they're putting it in the bank for a rainy day and like putting in their 401k? That shit went to Target.
Yeah. Of course.
Um, so it's if you saw, I saw a thing pop up on Instagram where it showed Target stock over the last 5 years. It was like normal. 2020 was a little wonky,
Mhm.
and in 2021 it's up at like $250 or something. And you start diving into retail right now, and where's all the money coming from, dude?
Yeah.
It's all of a sudden, a bunch of people were short on Axe body spray and pillowcases. Um, no, man, it's like we just got money, and we're not doing a lot of smart things with it. We're blowing it left and right. So as you know, maybe you tried this when you were a kid. I tried it and I failed, but you see the shit on TV where there's a tablecloth on and it's got like the plates on it, and you can rip it out, and the plates stay on the table.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, I tried that, of course, and I broke a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
So that's what's happening right now. Like, we thought that we were just going to pull this tablecloth out and everything's going to be fine, and except right now all the dishes are crashing to the floor. And uh I've I go poke, I look for stuff, right? You go on YouTube, you start searching on certain things, trying to find, you type in the word evictions or
Yeah.
student loans, and one just popped up this morning, and the guy was telling a story about, I should have said that, I don't even know who the dude is, but he said something like, there's a landlord somewhere talking about how this person hasn't paid rent in 18 months, but they bought a new boat.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
started laughing because that's I got a family member that lives in a lower income kind of place, and they know the person above them has not been paying rent for 18 months, but there's like they bought a brand new Jeep.
Hmm.
And it's like, okay, and how many of these stories do you think happened where people just thought that if I don't have to, I'm not going to pay it? So I know quite a few people that weren't paying their student loans, even though they've been fully employed. They just took the opportunity to say, if I got it, I'm not going to pay it right now,
Hmm.
and that's fine. It would have been a good time to just throw some more money on the school loans, but whatever. You're not getting hit with interest, but they had that luxury of having that extra disposable income, right? Well,
Yep.
that's coming to an end in January, and what we saw here was a little blip of people started to freak out, thinking, "Oh shit!" Before they bumped it up, things are coming to an end where you're going to have to pay your mortgage, you're going to have to pay your rent, and you're going to have to pay your school loans, and then all of a sudden people stop spending money.
Yep. Yep.
So
The thing that surprises me with all this, and it's maybe a bit of naivety on my side, but we talked about this in a previous episode about the idea of pull ahead sales, but that implies that there's a baseline, and I agree that there's a baseline number typically for at least performance for companies. We saw this coming, like in our conversations, we knew that at some point sales were going to drop off. So the idea that the Dow falls as much as it does because it's disappointed, I don't understand the idea that you make decisions based on this like inflated level of sales and then get disappointed later. It kind of rings back to when GameStop was happening and that stock was flying around. I remember talking to you and thinking, like, how does the management team at GameStop make any decisions with like this ridiculous valuation, or they're almost kind of frozen into you can't do anything because it's not real. And I feel the same way here.
it's we just talked about that one game maker stock. I already forgot the name of it.
Yeah, Zynga.
Zynga. Tells you how much I give a shit about that stock.
Yeah.
But to think that things are going to stay at that level of 2020 when everyone was stuck in the house and they had nothing to do and they couldn't go anywhere, so everyone's playing fucking games. You can't. Did they really think that that was going to be sustainable?
Mm-hmm.
And I see this going on here. Maybe it's the analyst and it's the actual companies. Did you think that with the trillions of dollars we pumped in the system that this was going to continue? And you're going to base your like revenue forecast off of that? Like, who the hell's at the helm thinking that? So they either really thought the federal government was just going to keep printing this money and allow people not to pay their rent and their student loans and the fat unemployment. Maybe they really thought that was just going to continue. But holy crap, is someone not at that boardroom table saying, "Hey, man, this party's going to come to an end at some point"?
Yeah, right.
But to do that, Kane, to actually come out and forecast that you're expecting a big revenue drop, what's that do to your stock?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So you're actually better off just saying that right now in this crazy time in this irrational market. You're better off just waiting for the disappointing numbers to come. Because who the hell wants to sit there on a quarterly call and say, yeah, we're expecting a 11% revenue drop in the next 12 months?
That's true. Yeah, that's a great point.
Dude, they'll be cutting those people's heads off right there, and then but it's not realistic. I knew a lot of people making money in 2006-ish, 7, right? Maybe even late 05, and everything real estate, right? Real estate, underwriting, mortgages, home appraisal. Everyone was just printing cash right then. And you see people that I know what it takes to get 100,000. I know what it takes to get 200,000. I know what it takes to get 3. The amount of effort it takes. And I'm watching these people consume things and live that lifestyle because they're making what I thought was an abnormal amount of money for what they did.
Yeah.
But it was crazy times. And I did know some, unfortunately, they did lose their house. But I was like, hey, this isn't normal. Like, things are really hot right now, and you made 200 grand this year, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But if you lost this job right now, there's nothing else you could do to make 200 grand.
Right.
And it's very hard to get people through to them to think about that for a moment. Like, you're in a good spot right now, and if you can hang on to this, you're doing fine. But you are not worth $200,000 doing anything else. You're only right now at this time at this company. So if this company lets you go, or you leave this industry, you're screwed, or if this industry collapses, you're screwed. But they kept living like they're going to make $200,000 a year forever, right? Car, home, second home, travel. Well, when the shit busted out, Kane, there was nowhere for them to go make 200 grand again. So they ended up pretty much losing everything.
Yeah,
I always thought, like, when, kind of like if you want to live at your best means, as I say, you want to live below your means, but you want to do shit. If you're making enough money, you want to travel, you want to have stuff, you want to put some money in the bank, but you want to live the best life you can, right? I'm all about embracing youth. But at the same time, if I'm making like an abnormal amount of money, I'm not going to try to adjust my life to that level knowing that this is a short-term blip. It's going to be like, so if this bust, where's my realistic income at, right? And that's kind of where I live my life, knowing that I'm going to ride this thing, and if it lasts forever, cool. But if it gets busted out, I at least know that realistically I'm worth this, and I'll hang on to my life. Is anyone doing that in corporate America right now?
Yeah, it's a great point.
Hell no, Kane. I get it. You're maximizing this shit all the way to the end. But if you don't even deserve to be working there right now if you can't step back and say, yeah, the economy was overinflated with money pumped in the system, a tremendous amount of unemployment, and then you basically gave people a free roll on rent and student loans, which, if you just think about this, one person, if they got $500 a month in school loans and $1,000 a month in rent, that's $1,500 every month that they didn't have before. Now, times that by 18 months.
Yep, it's a lot of money.
And times that by tens of millions of people.
Yep.
And all that money went back into the economy. And why is no one talking about this? Everyone thought it was the fat unemployment, but you realize if you're making $3,500 I'm making numbers up here, rough numbers, $3,500 a month on unemployment, and you didn't have to pay your school loans and you didn't have to pay your rent, you basically had like a car payment, your iPhone bill, your electric bill, and that's it. Like,
Yeah.
and the rest of it was just cash. And you look at Amazon and Walmart and Target, jet ski sales, boat sales, RV sales. Like, no wonder people were buying shit left and right. So where are the analysts and the corporate financial people who didn't come out and see this shit coming?
Yeah.
But we did prop it up, right? We pushed school loans off to January. I think we extended the eviction thing again and mortgages, right? I'm not even sure on the dates anymore. But they did say the school loan, this is the last time we're going to do it. And then we know mortgages, you're going to be able to, it looks like you're going to be able to just roll that money over. Unfortunately, no one's talking about the financial ramifications of that. So it's going to tack that onto your principal. To housing market goes down in any form, you're probably going to be underwater on your home. And then unless they come out with some kind of financial package to bail out the 11 plus million people who are facing eviction on rent, those people are going to be on the hook for it. So there's a lot of drama coming probably in the next 6 months unless the government decides to bail all these people out, which is a whole other issue, Kane, because if you're getting unemployment and you didn't pay your rent, that's bullshit, right? That's a whole other issue. And then I'm digging for stories this morning. I started seeing stories about how landlords were starting to try to sue people, not so much for the eviction, but the landlord knew that they were still working, but they just chose not to pay their rent.
Mm-hmm.
How many of these cases do you think are out there? Probably quite a few. We got 6 months of term. Imagine that, Kane. You're sitting there as a landlord. You got your life savings tied up in this little property. You see this person going to work every day, and they're like, "Yeah, the government said they're not going to pay the rent. Fuck you." I feel like there's a lot of turmoil and hell coming in the next 6 months, unless they keep extending it, right?
No doubt. We talked about this the other day with the luxury cars and stuff, but I saw over the weekend, maybe it's because I'm looking for this now that we talked about it, but I saw like a McLaren roll up in the house next door. Like, I mean, how is that even sustainable? Like, I don't think anybody's gotten that much of a pay bump that a week ago they're driving like a Civic and now they've got a McLaren parked outside their house.
I mean, I think it's multiple things. I think all this money was pumped into the system, and a lot of it made a lot of other people rich.
Yeah.
So if you owned a small store and now everyone's spending more money, that business owner is getting paid because everyone's bringing the money they should have been paying their school loans and their rent went into this store. So now that store owner's got a bunch of money, so he's buying a McLaren, for example.
Right, but it goes back to your point, James, about like the optimism's fine, right? But it's crazy to adjust lifestyle to this small kind of inflated bump on sales, right? Even if that store owner has seen a ridiculous amount of sales over the last 18 months, the idea that like maybe he buys the McLaren out, completely and there's no payment on it. But to take on a payment like that, thinking that sales are going to be like this forever is just wild.
It's bonkers when you think about it, but that's what they call it, the everything bubble. And that guy probably leased that car, right?
Yeah.
I mean, most of those cars are leased. But it's not just the stock market made a lot of people rich right now. I think you saw a lot of the boomers exited early. Maybe they were going to work to 65, but now they're like, screw it, the stock market's so crazy. They were able to get out early.
Yeah, true.
So the stock market made a lot of people who had money even wealthier. And I think now you're seeing more luxury cars. Like I've never seen so many luxury cars in Michigan. McLaren and Lamborghinis are just everywhere. R8s. We talked about this in another episode. I love cars and I'm a car culture type of person, but this is it's crazy. So after we had that conversation on the episode about the luxury cars and Lamborghinis and whatnot, I started bouncing around the dealers to see what I could find in stock.
Yeah.
The McLaren dealer here in the past, had something. They had one new McLaren and that's it. No Lamborghinis. The Ferrari dealer's got a couple used Ferraris. Not that they would have new Ferraris there anyways, but just trying to find like an R8, Lamborghini, McLaren, like something.
Yeah.
The stock is so low. I was like, oh man. Mm-hmm. But you can't see them on the road and expect them to be on the car lot. So obviously people have sucked up all that inventory, but
yeah.
When the shit hits the fan, then what? We talked about that. The people that bought the boats,
Yep.
The luxury cars, the RVs, they bought the bigger house with the crazy prices they just paid for it. It's what happens when things go back to normal, for example.
Mhm.
This is the everything bubble.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's going to pop because the government can print money and that whole market can remain irrational a lot longer than you can remain liquid, is whatever
Yeah.
that fucking
Yeah.
saying is. The government can print money a lot longer than who knows for how long they want to pump this thing up, right? But I'm just looking around and seeing all these cars. I just saw what did I see? A Ferrari, a baby blue Ferrari Pista. I'm probably saying it wrong. It's like everywhere I go, I'm just like, McLaren, Lamborghini, Ferrari, Lamborghini. Are like, I'm in Michigan, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of wealth here, but you just never seen those cars before. And but you saw the housing boom, you saw the crypto boom, you couldn't find a boat anywhere. The RV dealer was sold out. Something to keep in mind from a business perspective, right? And I'm gonna use the RV dealer down here, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Like they sold out of RVs and they made a shit ton of money this year. Well, last year, and they made quite a bit of money this year. So back to the pull ahead sale, right? This should be a business case study.
Yeah.
This is how I think of shit because I've had to run companies that I've started through 3 recessions now, 2 recessions and a recession/pandemic, right? I got the scars and the bullet wounds and I've been shot 4 times in these battles. And you got to come through on the other side. I'm looking at what's going on with the RVs and the boats and whatnot. So they made a shit ton of money in the last 2 years. But now, if it gets to the point like we talked about with the guy at the McLaren and the economy starts to go down, back to normal, let's say, and his store revenue goes down, now he can't afford the McLaren and he's got to get rid of that McLaren. Now there's a pile of inventory on the market of used McLarens, so no one's going to buy new McLarens. Now, same thing's going to happen with RVs and boats and everything else, right? So now that dealer's going to suffer for probably who knows how many years, 3 to 5 years. Does the money they made in the last 2 years going to offset the amount of money they're going to lose in the next 3 to 5?
Right.
And my thought is probably no, because they were limited to how many things they could have sold last year and this year because of manufacturing. Now, if they could have sold as much as they could sell, maybe they would have sold 3 times as much volume, but they can't because there just wasn't that many new RVs coming off the line. So their ability to sell was kind of crippled. So they couldn't really maximize profits. So we had 2 good years, and then you're going to have 3 to 5 bad years. I'm not sure that even equals out over a 5 to 7 year run of being decent. It's probably going to be pretty bad, actually.
Right.
But this is the shit they don't teach you in business school, right? It's I'm trying to stay in this game a long time. Companies come and go. I've been around 20 plus years. It's longevity is hard. And especially when you got this roller coaster like you're seeing right now, it's a thing where if people are always telling you about how good they were yesterday, and that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
If you can't do today what you did yesterday, then no one gives a shit. And it's that thing where we go, oh, 2 good years, we're booming, we're blasting. Like, but those 2 years are only good if the next 5 years are at least decent. And I think people forget that.
Yeah.
Because you will easily wipe out those 2 good years in the next 3. It's when the people that I work at Coca-Cola and I'm in sales and I did a great job and I crushed it. And then they go to their boss. It's like, give me the big raise. I outsold Pepsi and I did all this stuff, and then they get the big raise and then next year they don't perform. And then the boss is going to be sitting there like, well, shit. I gave you the big raise because you did good. It's one of those things where you're only good when you're good.
Yeah. It's all about that baseline, right? Like the skill is raising the baseline, not like pulling ahead.
And you have to that's why we look at things over trends. We look at things over a timeline. Like what was your sales at Coke for 5 years?
Right.
Because everyone can have a good year. The problem is you can have 1 good year and then 4 bad years, and then you suck. But that's business in general. You can't ride on 1 good year. That one good year is only good if the next handful of years are good or at least decent.
Right. Right.
That's what I think of applying to everything right now. Housing, RVs, but everything, any durable good for the most part, probably even jewelry, watches we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that was a high consumable that was, everybody wanted. It's those companies that were selling those things. You said what, the LVMH guy was the richest in the world there for a minute.
Yeah, right.
And granted, rich people will continue to do rich things. Like, you can run into someone that's got real money. When I say real money, like just the real FU money.
Yeah.
And then when there's a recession, they're like, what recession? Like, because they got so much goddamn money. They're still gonna buy luxury goods. They don't care. They're still buying all that stuff. But that's not what makes up a bulk of, luxury sales. A lot of it is upper middle class, for example, that are people emerging out of middle class up. They start consuming luxury goods. A lot of sales come from there. So when the market tanks, they stop buying it. But the super rich, if they're sitting around like, what recession? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I haven't noticed anything. Okay. But we know what's propping the market up, and we are going to find out here. We're not going to find out. We know.
We know.
The only thing that we don't know is how much longer the government's going to continue to stick their hands in the economy and screw things up for businesses, right? And landlords and all that jazz. They might come out and say we're gonna knock off X amount of school loans. We're gonna bail out the landlords so the people don't get evicted. Like, we don't know. But regardless of what happens there with that, assuming that they just make people start paying their school loans again and their rent and mortgages again, that sucks all this extra money out of the market.
No doubt.
So we will continue to have these episodes until then, and we'll see. We'll find out if we were right.
Yep.
Until then, I'm going to catch you because
all right,
got some shit to do. All right, later.
All right, later.